What's up, everybody? It is time for a little National Signing Day magic, if such a thing still exists in 2025. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Anwar Richardson, Jason Sukamel, riding shotgun as we bring you the very latest on National Signing Day 2025. It is December 3rd, the 20th anniversary of the day that I met my wife. Just FYI, it's the day that Texas played Colorado in the Big 12 championship game in 2005, 70-3 or 70-7, whatever the hell that was. It was an ass kicking. Fellas, Jason, I guess I'll come to you. Like, we're not expecting, I think, transformative breaking news today. We were just kind of joking about the fact that of a couple of the big names that haven't come in, a couple of them are on the East Coast, and it does make you just wonder a little bit, but it should be a fairly quiet. There probably will be a couple of changes and maybe a couple of things happen, but it doesn't feel like a day where there's going to be a lot of shockwaves. It's really an evaluation of what they've accomplished over the course of the last 12 months, and specifically the summer, which is the new critical period in high school football recruiting.
Yeah, it almost feels like they need like an August signing day, right? Because a lot of these guys have been committed since June and July, and they're just kind of been waiting to put pen to paper. It used to be guys would take official visits in the fall and commit in December. You don't see that very much anymore unless, Jamarian Carlton flipping or something like that. But we're up to 10 guys who've already sent their letters of intent in. Like you said, a couple East Coast guys. Those guys are usually the early ones. I'm not saying there's anything to be worried about, to be clear, but Derek Cooper or JJ Johnson, those guys have not yet sent theirs in. Vodney Cleveland, I think, is in about an hour catch, and he's Texas and North Carolina, has been committed to Texas. I'm expecting him to flip to North Carolina. Corey Wells, I literally was just exchanging some messages. Another defensive lineman committed to Texas. I was exchanging some messages right before we came on. It's going to be Texas. Auburn's trying to make a late flip. I think Auburn might get him. Okay, now I've talked to some other people who think, no, he's going to stick with Texas, but I don't know, man. Auburn's willing to take his brother under a full scholarship. I think Auburn might be able to flip Corey Wells. We're watching that one and a couple other stories. But, they're up to, like I said, 10 guys have come in. So we're still waiting on some big ones to come in. Diabell was the first one. So the 5-star quarterback was the first one in. Jamarian Carlton's already in. So got some big ones in, but we're still waiting on some big fish to send their letters of intent in.
Onward, before I come to you, I just want to mention to everybody, Chad Hastings will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. He'll be kind of like our update guy today. He'll just let us know top and bottom of every hour what's happened on the national side, what's really happened with rivals. Is anything interesting going on with the Aggies or Oklahoma or whatever? Like, Chad will be popping in and just adding a little bit of spice to the proceedings as we go on for the next couple of hours. Onward, there's some dynamics about this year's recruiting cycle that I think we're watching play out in real time. So a lot of times it's hard know how good the meal is when you've just got, you know what I mean? It's like, how is dinner? I don't know. Ask me tomorrow when I can give you a full perspective of how it's happened. We're watching the impact of the transfer portal and revenue share and financial outlay. There are a number of guys, like Vodney Cleveland's a guy that will make his decision in the next hour or so, a defensive lineman. And one of the things that we've seen from Texas is a real commitment to, we're good on the spend right now, and that anything that we do late won't be because we've got overly aggressive from a let's go get more guys on the recruiting side of things. They learned some hard lessons, I think, about what it means to have the number one recruiting class in the country, but to have a roster that's deep enough that those guys just can't walk in and play. First time under the Steve Sarkisian era that enough depth has been present that it's just been hard for guys to get on the field. A guy like Jonah Williams a couple of years ago is starting by the end of the season. And this year it's like, well, he's getting some scrap reps because they're pretty loaded at safety. They've got depth at safety. They've got a guy like 5-star Xavier Filsaime who's ahead of him in the pecking order and has been around a little bit longer. Texas has kind of put a freeze on spending. I think all of the schools across the country, if you look at the 5-stars in this class, and I was looking at the rivals rankings yesterday, it's not like Georgia has 8, Alabama has 8, Texas has 5, and there's 4 or 5 schools that are splitting the elite of the elite of the elite. We just saw Vanderbilt flip the number 1 quarterback in the country.
Pretty damn awesome, by the way. He flipped it from Georgia.
It's just a new era. Like, what signing day is and how it supports a program like Texas is changing in front of it. We're in the middle of the change. It's happening today, but I think it is the storyline. It is Texas is not overdosing on trying to get as many 4 stars as they possibly can, because that's what makes a number 1 recruiting class. If you look at what USC is doing, they're taking a bunch of dudes. They're kind of not doing what Texas is doing. I think there are some reasons for that, but there's no question Texas, while they prefer the high school kids, I think there is an acknowledgement unofficially through actions and not words that it's a brave new world in college football, and we do have to make some adjustments somewhere, somehow, everywhere. And I think it's all, you can see the fingerprints of that all over this class.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can go back to last year's class, Catch, and really even the year before that. And we know it's kind of like if you're going to have this ROI, right, your return on investment, you realize that you're probably not going to get that from the freshman class. And Texas learned that lesson a couple of years ago. And again, this is not to make him the whipping boy, but the Brandon Baker. It took a little bit of development there, but Texas spent a lot of money on Brandon Baker, where at that time he couldn't beat out a Trevor Gooseby, right? And so you're looking at it like, okay, we're spending X on Baker, not much on Gooseby, but Gooseby has been in here, he's been developed, he's been a guy that they can lean on. And so all of a sudden there was some like, why are we spending all this kind of money, right? And so you can look at last year, and if you look at just the number of guys that you thought to yourself, okay, to your point, Catch, Malik Jefferson comes in as a 5-star several years ago. He has to start, right? It is an automatic no-brainer. You have to put him on the field. You finally got a 5-star. He's a 5-star linebacker. You took him from Texas A&M. Like, all this stuff needs to happen. By the way, I guess it helps if I have my mic a little bit closer. Let's try that.
Yes, I was so.
I'm like, I looked around the corner of my laptop. I'm like, wait a second. This might help out the
conversation. Sounds so much better, Anwar. I was kind of like pushing around. I thought it was me. I was like, Chad.
So crazy when you don't have a microphone in front of you. So
we could hear you.
Yeah.
It just sounded like you were in a broom closet. But it's good. We're good.
At least we got it done now. So, so now it's a comic relief to start the story. But now you look at last year's class and you thought to yourself, okay, all these guys might hit. Look at the receivers, DBs, and even your Justice Terry, your Lance Jackson, like they played sparingly, but they were.
Justice Terry's a good one, Anwar, because we celebrated that like man had landed on the moon, and because this team is 9-3, and I think everybody just kind of feels like, oh, we just needed 1 or 2 more guys. Like, I think there's a little bit more awareness of like, wait a minute. I think in the past it kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but the financial cost of it all, Justice Terry's a perfect example where all season long you're kind of watching that guy and you're just like, did Texas make a mistake? Did they pick the wrong guy? And what does it mean if you pick the wrong guy? I'm doing that all over the country. I saw Texas Tech, James Blanchard called a guy the state's best running back that signed with Texas Tech. And I thought, is he really? And what does it mean to miss on that now moving forward for each school? Like, it is, again, it's a prism through which we're looking at this. And Justice Terry's a great example.
Yeah. And then, you tell yourself, okay, you're not going to get a Decorian Moore because you can get a Kalik Lockett and Jamie French, but we barely see those guys on the field this past year. It is not. These are not guys that we think are bust. These are not guys we don't think is eventually going to be productive and in the system. But we're talking about, when you talk about the money spent, that's where Texas is at. It's like, man, we spent a lot of money on these guys, but they ain't playing right now. So, going forward, we got to be smart about how we spend because these guys, we got a talented roster that it's just not that easy to come in here and come in year 1 or year 2 and look, catch. And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, But it's if you're Texas too, I know I just said Justice Terry. Now I'll say this and I'll throw it back to you. Grayson Littleton ends up being probably the more productive of all the DBs, and he's the guy that in that room you probably spent the least on, right? And he ends up being the guy that gives you probably the most productivity. I mean, Cade Phillips comes along a little bit later, right? But I'm just saying, like, if you're Texas, you got to say, man, we can't just go after every 5-star and break the bank, because you might have a guy like Grayson Littleton come in and he's the guy that's going against Ohio State in week 1. Like, you got to be somewhat smart about what you're doing with your money.
It's funny, Anwar, like, it really speaks to how well Texas is recruited in the last couple of years that Grayson Littleton kind of gets treated like he's recruiting chump change. He was actually really highly recruited, but he was like a national 150, a national 100 guy. And so it's like, grub. And it's like, but to your point, he was probably like the 12th highest rated guy in the class, or the 10th highest rated guy in the class, was I think the biggest contributor among all true freshmen. There's less of those guys, I think, in this class. I think the Grayson Littleton's a perfect example of what's not in this class. It is a year where Texas, when you look at the 5-stars, Oregon leads the country with 5. Notre Dame has 4. They're alone in second place coming into today. And Alabama and Texas both have 3. So forget about class size for a second. When we talk about like the elite of the elite of the elite, Texas was like, we're going to get a quarterback, we're going to get an edge rusher, and we're going to get a linebacker. And that's going to happen. And they got the guy that they think is the number 1 quarterback in the country. And I'm fascinated to know what his revenue share / NIL situation looks like, because Texas has been riding a wave of pretty inexpensive in-house quarterback. Like, they're not having to put an outlay for Arch Manning the way that Michigan is for Bryce Underwood. And yet there's a world out there where Arch is like, hey man, there's no freebies here. I know I can get 20 million on my name, but you're going to give me 10 too. And then like it like that impact. What is Diabell's impact there? Wesley Atkinson, Texas. Jason, I looked at the Rivals industry rankings. They're the only program in the country that has 3 top 20 5-stars. So Oregon's got 5 5-stars, but they don't have anybody inside the top 10. They have 2 inside the top 20. Or Notre Dame has 4 5-stars, but their highest rated guy is 17. Texas, I think at the top, they'll feel like I think their philosophy this year was, we'll take our 3 best guys and we'll hold them up against anybody else's best 3 guys in the country. I think they probably feel like we can do that with our top 5. I think they probably feel like
I'd take it beyond 3. I think Texas feels that way with Derek Cooper and James Johnson as well.
So I was going to say, they might even go out to like 7. They may say that we like a guy like Carlton, quite frankly. They'll say Carlton's our 6th or 7th best player. Yeah, let's play big bank, little bank. I think it is the middle class, which is how national number 1 recruiting classes often are won. When you look and see how many 4-stars did they sign. And I'd have to go look and see. Let me real quick. USC right now has 24 stars. Texas has 12. And I think that's by design. That is a group of players, Anwar, that costs money, but not a ton. But they're exactly the kind of guys that a Tech or a Baylor or a TCU can go at and say, We'll pay. I mean, we just saw this a little bit with the offensive lineman that flipped from Texas to SMU, Max Wright, where he wasn't hearing back from Texas on the NIL front. I think SMU was like, what would I say?
No, I thought you were asking me, but yeah, you're right. Sorry.
But like, I think it was a minimal amount of money. The kid wasn't looking to break the bank, but Texas wasn't trying to spend any bank. They want to put all of that money at the top, and they'll say, we feel really great about what we did at the top. But yeah, we're probably not going to go get 24 stars and then take on the extra millions of revenue that has to be spent. really curious that Texas decides to do that. I think Georgia, to some degree, has decided to do that. Georgia doesn't have a bunch of 5-stars in this class. It's almost as if they've decided, whoa, we have to make some conscientious spending decisions here. It's just crazy, the world that we live in. But I think Texas will feel like, from a strategy standpoint, Jason, that they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, even if it looks a little different than maybe it did a year ago.
Yeah, man, like you've said it, Catch. We're in the middle of an evolving recruiting world. And you know what? I have a feeling we'll be saying that same thing next year. This thing just keeps evolving, in NIL and salary caps and how teams, like you said, I mean, what's the right strategy? Is the right strategy to break the bank on 5 or 6 guys and then fill out the rest with, some 3s and maybe some 4-star guys and trust your evaluations? But you know what? Here's the deal. Those 5-star guys aren't guarantees either, right? You've got to, if you're going to spend big money on Tyler Atkinson and Derek Cooper, they better damn well hit, and they better hit early.
No, you're right.
Yeah, we saw some of that with Texas this year. They had some big money invested in freshmen who didn't really contribute much. So, but then you got schools like Texas Tech who are throwing around crazy amounts of money for 2027 guys already. And they've got a bunch of commitments there. I mean, Texas hasn't done that yet. That's not Texas's MO. That's not how Sark operates. But it's an evolving world. I mean, again, Texas does all of its official visits in June. I mean, there's a lot of recruiting that goes on in January at junior days, and then spring, football and visits and 7-on-7 type stuff. But then official visits start in June, and by and large, most of this class is locked up in July. Maybe some guys wait until August. And then you're just kind of keeping other teams at bay, like with Derek Cooper. I mean, Texas just had to kind of keep Miami at bay, and J.J. Johnson, same to some degree. And we talked about a couple of defensive tackle guys. The big news this week, Texas has been trying to flip some LSU guys. And Bryson Martinez, the offensive lineman, I think you posted that, right? He went ahead and signed with LSU. Well, a week ago, not even a week ago, his mom told me, no, he's not going to sign with LSU in December. He's going to wait till February so we can kind of see what their coaching staff looks like. And lo and behold, Lane Kiffin gets hired. Bryson Martinez signs with LSU. I would say it's a big hit for Texas, but boy, they sure would like another offensive lineman. He's a really good one. And Texas had a really strong shot there, but I think the Kiffin news kind of shook things up there. So a lot of moving parts here, man. I mean, I'm trying to do 10 things at once. My mind's a little scattered here, but it's a different world, Catch, than certainly you and I. But it's a different world right now than it was this time last year.
Yeah.
Because of all the NIL implications, and how do you manage that money, and how much is saved for the portal, and how much is saved for roster retention. And, you can't go out and just get 10 5-stars. That's not going to happen. And the more 5-stars you get, then you're probably going to have to take some real flyers on some real projects too. So, do you spread it out and take a bunch of 4-stars, or do you take some, handful of 5-stars, but then you're going to take some, I won't say low-level 3-stars, but guys that are willing to come on to your program for pretty cheap. And then if those guys hit, it's found money. Like if Trevor Gooseby right now, and Trevor Gooseby is obviously commanding a pretty decent NIL paycheck right now, but if Trevor Gooseby was coming out of high school, he probably comes in at a very low price tag.
Yep. And
then it's found money if he hits. Now, once he hits, then you got to pay him to retain him, though. So,
and that's the way Texas prefers to pay its starter NIL money. If you're a starter at Texas, you're going to get paid. It's kind of what they told Trevor Gooseby was, right? Hey, because I'm, like Pancake Factory, all that stuff. It wasn't like he wasn't getting anything, I don't think. But there's Johnny Barron's a good example. Johnny Barron was like, I want to get paid more money, and was on the precipice a couple of times of really pushing the envelope to try to get more NIL money. And in the end, really interesting, non-eventful portal career, considering there was always this talk that he wanted more. He was trying to figure out a way to do more. And so they want to point to Jahdae Barron to every guy that comes through the program and say, that's how a first-round draft pick did it. He when he became a starter, he became a starter. And And I think one of the things they've got, and I think the wide receiver situation is a perfect example of like, how much money do we have tied up into the position and how much of it is just sitting on the bench? And it's just a new way to have to evaluate your roster. Dead money is now a real thing in college football, that when a guy's getting paid a lot of money and he ain't playing at all, dead money. And they're all trying to figure out, how do you get as much of our money as possible onto the field? Lessons that Texas had to learn. I think historically the Max Wright flip from Texas to SMU is, for me, it will become a verb in the future. And it may even happen later today. In the next hour, we may see someone do this exact same thing. And I can say he pulled a Max Wright, or a Max Wright situation happen, which is Texas has a guy that they really like and they want him. But if, let's say the number is $250,000, which is not crazy. And I can see an SMU telling Max Wright, you're worth that to us. I think what Texas has said is, oh man, we are better saving that $250 someplace else. What we will do is do almost a like for like switch with a Caden Scherer, who we don't think is as good as Max Wright. Otherwise, we'd have already taken him instead of Max Wright. But you know what he doesn't cost? $250,000. And you know that the difference between those two guys is narrow enough that, can we put a price on it? Yep. It's not $250,000. And so then what ends up happening is that you've got a guy in Max Wright who's like, man, I just want to, like, I got people who are offering me good money. Offer me something. And Texas is like, no, we really can't. And Max Wright was pretty open about it. He was like, they're not talking to me about NIL. I keep asking, and they're not even.
But they did early on.
Correct.
That's where his problem was. Is like, hey, are we still good on this NIL? And it's like, oh, chirp, 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 crickets.
But
we're gonna call back and we'll do this later. For some reason, we can't. But like,
but they can say, you know what? Max Wright wants this X amount. We're not quite sure what to pay, but you know what? We got two guys up at Georgetown, and we could just get those guys and give them something for the price of one Max Wright, maybe even less, right?
Those guys are coming basically for free. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
speaking of which, Anwar Jet Walker just signed literally as you're talking.
So I mean, like, we could flip one guy, from Stanford into Minnesota, and like they wanted to come here anyway, and we'll go ahead. And Texas has been big on this 2 for the price of 1, 3 for the price of 1 thing. Again, that's the Decorian Moore thing. For 1 Decorian Moore, we could get a Khalid Lockett and a Jamie French. So that's where the Max Wright. It's like they're more about, hey, you can get it, cool, but this is this is what we think you're worth, and if you think you're worth more than that, so be it. Go have fun.
Anwar, I was told months ago, like early in the season, our break, we have the handbrake on recruiting. We got to figure out what's up with our roster. So we got to see the season and find out, like, after the season, what our needs are. Now that once we really know, we don't know what we need to get in the portal. There's just like so many unknowns, even back in August and September. And it kind of played out that way, other than the flip of Jamarian Carlton from Baylor to Texas, which I think that was really about. I think they got a John Turntine discount on that kid, where he did not make the flip for NIL reasons. I think he made it because he didn't want to go to Baylor. I think that kid wanted to go to Texas. And I think Texas was like, sweet, that's exactly the kind of value add that we will love, but it wouldn't have broken the bank. And I don't think there's a single kid down the home stretch that they'll feel like they exhausted a single possible retention or revenue share dollar or whatever needs to be done, portal, whatever. I think they'll feel like we did exactly what we wanted to do, which was be cautious, save money, and prepare ourselves for what it looks like after the season. They were so aggressive in the summer to get their guys. And I thought that I wondered, will they be able to help themselves late? Like, Sark loves these high school kids. Is he going to find some guy that he just decides he has to have and money be damned? And that just didn't happen. And I think it actually showed a lot of discipline on the behalf of Sarkisian and his staff. to understand the new ball game that they're playing in. It can't be like the old days where Bo Davis would just walk into a high school and offer guys and the rest of the staff wouldn't know about it. Like everything really does have to be tactically approached. Everybody does have to be on the same page. And again, it may be a couple of years before we know how well this approach is going to work. Is this the right plan? Is this we're in the beginning of the changing of the plan? But
you took the words out of my mouth. Like, this is the approach they're taking, but like, we don't know that this is the right approach, right? I mean,
that's how new it is.
People complain this year, like, things have gotten better, but hey, there's not enough playmakers on this Texas team. Well, if you're not willing to pay big money for the top end guys, for the DeCorian Moores, well, that's the kind of roster you might be playing with. So, and you can say, go to the portal. Well, the DeCorian Moores of the world aren't the guys that are going in the portal. Man, you can fill holes in the portal, but your top end talent is going to still come from the high school ranks. So you've got to be very selective. And I said it earlier, and Almar, I think you were popped out for a minute, but when you recruit and pay a 5-star guy like Derek Cooper and Tyler Atkinson, they better hit, dude, because if they don't, you're wasting a lot of money that could have gone elsewhere for a legitimate contributor. So I don't know, I kind of jumped in, Catch, and then interrupt you.
We're just having a free flow combo.
I think it's a smart approach, but we don't know that, right? We don't know that 3 years from now we won't be saying, oh, damn, where's all the like top end playmakers here? Because this guy didn't hit and this guy didn't hit. So, I don't know, man. It's an interesting way to attack it. I think it's a smart way to attack it right now. If they truly continue to enforce this, oh, wow. I'll just say this: Josiah Vilmail will not be signing with Texas. Kind of expected that. The cornerback commitment that our quarterback prospect that Texas recruited, and they brought him in for an official visit Arkansas weekend. And I'll just give a little backstory while we're talking. This is just kind of live breaking news, but he was going to commit that Sunday after his visit. He went home, talked to his family. He said, I'm going to call Texas and commit. I had a commitment story, had quotes and everything ready to go, but Texas was still recruiting Torrey Davis, the defensive back out of Boulder, Colorado. Well, so they kind of slow played Josiah Vilmail a little bit. Torrey Davis comes in last weekend. He ends up committing just last night. So that kind of shut the door on Josiah Vilmail. So won't be committing to Texas. Look for him to commit to a Big 12 school.
I like that kid, by the way.
I do too. He's a kind of guy like we just talked about. He's not going to cost you a whole lot of money, but he's got good size, good speed, good measurables, good athleticism. He's a project guy, but he's got the skills where you could see, okay, he's got a high ceiling. I can see where this guy might pan out in a year or two, but it won't be at Texas.
Yeah, I really thought that guy had a chance to be like an immediate special teams guy. Like, I really liked him watching him. I was like, oh, that's exactly the kind of underrated, if he sticks around for 2 or 3 years, I could see that guy being a player. I think that's the hard thing that Texas has got to figure out is how do you balance the cost versus they may not be an impact guy for 2 or 3 seasons, and that's okay. But it's okay for a guy to need time to develop. That's so standard operating procedure. It's only at schools like Texas and Georgia and Ohio State where the accelerant to be there, and maybe it will change. Maybe like Texas Tech's going to be an interesting one, Anwar.
I was just thinking about them.
They got guys that they've floated, like they're letting the world know we're paying Felix Ojo a boatload of money. And I think that guy's at least a couple of years away. He's Trevor Goosby. So either he comes in and has the 1 in a million Trevor Goosby physical ascending, right? Like what Goosby did from freshman redshirt year to his true freshman year was stunning, the transformation. That does not usually happen. And then, oh, by the way, you're good enough to be able to play, and if Kelvin Banks has to miss a series or a game or whatever, you're okay. Even if Felix Ojo doesn't play next year at all because he has to redshirt, what does that mean? What does it mean to $2 million and then be like, cool, we'll see you in 2029?
The thing is, though, if you're Tech right now and you're a playoff team, you can tell yourself this thing is okay for us. What we're doing in our formula is working because it's gotten us to this point, right? So even if Felix is not someone who comes in and contributes right away, you say we're good. It's okay. And I mean, I think the Jason point is a a really good one. Because who was remind me again, Jason and Catch, who was the offensive lineman that went to Oklahoma last year, freshman at Texas wanted? Fasusi. Thank you. We did 800 shows on him. And but the question is, could a Fasusi have potentially helped out Texas this year? Maybe, right? And so you could go the route of, okay, we'll just build it and eventually get there. Or some other programs are just saying, hey, we're just going to get the guys that we want. Like, Oklahoma's not tripping about the Fasusi spend at this moment, the same way that Texas Tech is probably not going to be tripping about the Ojo spend, right? So, when it works and you win, you can tell yourself, even if he doesn't play right now, we're on the right track. Tech went out and got Micah Hudson. We don't even know if that we don't know if that guy exists at this moment, and they're okay with it now. Micah's salary has probably gone down tremendously at this moment, but there's a saying: scared money don't make no money, and it is what it is, and I think there'll be more of an analysis on this, Catch, going into next season, because when you're 9-3 and you miss out on the playoffs, people are going to really want to see you bounce back in 2026. And for the other teams, it's working for them. For Texas, as Jason says, is to be determined.
Chad Hastings jumping in at the bottom of the hour to give us some signing day nuggets and news and info. And if you don't do that, I guess real quick, Chad, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I didn't tell you to do anything Texas related. I should just let everybody know Texas is up to 13 or 14, Jason?
That was 14 with
by the way, I just asked Tyler, and he's going to create a ticker for us so we can just add to it to make it a little bit easier.
Well, we're 14 in. The last few guys that have come in since we've been on: Nicholas Robertson, Jet Walker, Jermaine Bishop Jr. Those are the most recent ones. The pending ones that everybody would probably keep an eye on. Still have not heard anything from Derek Cooper or James Johnson. Still waiting to see Corey Wells and Vodney Cleveland, the two defensive tackles. Richard Wesley, West Coast guy. He might be those West Coast guys will probably be the last.
Wesley has, I think, 10:30 his time, so it'll be like 12:30 our time. And I was wrong. Corey Wells is signing at 9:30. I don't know why I thought he was East Coast time. He's 8:30. So we still have Vodney Cleveland, another hour before Vodney Cleveland officially signs. But again, I'm fully expecting that one to be North Carolina and not Texas.
All right, Mr. Hastings. Sorry, I had to get that quick Longhorn update out of the way. And what you got for us?
Not a problem. First off, we'll peek around the country a little bit for those that love the recruiting rankings. If you haven't stared at them lately, like we've been staring at them, USC sitting on top of the team rankings right now. Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, and Ohio State rounding out the top 5. Texas sitting at 7. The Aggies at 9. Lane Kiffin and LSU, going to have to get used to that, at 10. And then the Sooners are down at 16 in terms of the team rankings. In terms of some individual guys I'm looking at, fellas, I heard y'all mention Bryson Martinez. Definitely going to peek in on that LSU class for a couple guys. Have not seen Lamar Brown sign yet. Have not seen Richard Anderson sign yet, but I'm sure there's big events coming for guys of that level. So we'll definitely pay attention to Lane's first class at LSU. If you're a Texas fan that cares about those legacies, Caden Finley has signed at Notre Dame, but not yet on Jalen Lott. Now, it's probably West Coast stuff, but let's just keep some drama going. Jalen Lott has not officially signed at Oregon, but it's obviously super early in the morning there. You would expect that to come later. Some other names that jumped out to me: Jake Kruel did sign in the Oklahoma class. KJ Edwards and Zayden Krempin both signed for the Aggies. along with some other guys. I'll keep my eye on Malachi Lee out in Hawaii, who is in the Michigan class technically, but not officially yet. I know there's been some Texas fans asking about Malachi. And then Ketch mentioned Jared Curtis. Both and the guys mentioned the crazy story of the quarterback commit that flips to Vanderbilt. I have not seen him officially signed, though, yet. One of the wildest stories where Nate Bargatze, the comedian, goes on game day and mentions the kid 3, 4, 5 times as maybe he's going to flip, and then he does flip the commitment. We'll see if he signs later on. So all that for some other teams. And then obviously we got the names going across now on the crawl. Jason knows I was very excited to see Jamarian Carlton sign officially with Texas. I know folks in Waco are not happy about that. And they were up early this morning in Waxahachie. Cohen Brown was one of the first Longhorns to officially sign. Ketch, you just mentioned Jermaine Bishop. I know how much you think of him. That's one of those big names that Longhorn fans might really be excited about down the road.
Yeah, although I got to be honest, Chad, I'm president of the Cohen Brown fan club.
Ketch, breaking, hold on. Deep snapper Trot O'Neill is in.
Oh, Chad, confetti time.
Boom, hang on. Yeah, we got it. 1 second.
I like Trot, so I don't need to
guys, because this may be the guy that has actually the biggest first-year impact.
He might be.
Right
They
there.
put Lance St. Louis in day one. So we are celebrating the biggest contributor of the 2026 season from the true freshman class. Woo!
There it is. There it is. And real quick, Ketch, before I duck back out, wanted to give a little love to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. They are the sponsor of the Recruiting Insider each and every week. We'll flash up a QR code for you. Tell you a little bit about John. John and his 6 siblings, all UT grads. His wife is a UT grad. He got to go to the game against the Aggies with his sister, which he really enjoyed, predicted a 7-point win. Texas made it a 10-point win. John wants to celebrate the fantastic victory over little brother by offering OB Live fans the free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. Call 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. Shout out to John, again, for that sponsorship of the Recruiting Insider each and every week. Normally, we debut on a Wednesday, and obviously, this is a huge Wednesday here on National Signing Day, thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. All right, fellas, I will check back in at 9 o'clock. We'll see if anything's going on out there on the West Coast.
Thank you, Chad.
Hey, Jason, when is turn time?
Whatever.
I don't have a time on turn time, actually. So
Thing is, these guys all sign their letters of intent officially earlier than they sign their public ceremonies. So all the guys that have already signed would probably tell you that they sign officially in an hour, and they've already got their letters of intent in. It just
Chad mentioned Richard Anderson, the defensive tackle commitment from LSU. Lamar Brown, another defensive tackle commitment LSU. Both those guys, as of late afternoon yesterday, were not going to sign today. They were going to wait till February so they could get better acclimated with the new LSU staff and see who they hired at some key positions. But I'm going off of Sam Spiegelman's reporting from this morning. They did meet with Kiffin last night, and it's looking like there's a good chance both those guys wind up go ahead and signing with LSU today. I don't know that it matters either way. I mean, Texas will keep working on those dudes clearly if they don't sign with LSU. And if I would think Texas would be a good secondary option, but those are both in-state guys who are going to be really tough to flip from LSU regardless, whether they sign today, Thursday, Friday, or wait till February. So we're keeping an eye on that situation, but I don't want to sit here and say, there's going to be some major fireworks with those LSU defensive line commitments, just like Bryson Martinez, the offensive lineman, went ahead and signed. I'm kind of expecting the same with those defensive linemen.
Guys, let's just stop a little bit on the newsy side for a moment. I was talking about Cohen Brown, the kid out of Waxahachie. That I'll be honest, man. If you watch his film and you watch Jermaine Bishop's film, I did back to back this week. Cohen Brown doesn't take a backseat to anybody. He is really good. I'm curious, and Jason, I'll come to you first, just in case Anwar needs a little time to sort it out a little bit.
Probably.
You and I might answer this question faster than Anwar will.
Probably.
Is there a guy in this class that isn't Tyler Atkinson, isn't Richard Wesley, isn't Diabell, that you think could be Grayson Littleton next year? A guy that maybe not necessarily from a first-year starter standpoint, but who in this class do you really like that won't be among the first names mentioned today when they sign?
It's probably cheating to go with it's probably cheating to go with Richie Wesley, isn't it? He's a 5-star out of California, but
you don't get to pick the number 20 guy in the country. No.
Yeah, but I've been beating that drum for 6 months. Like, dude, when are people getting? And finally, they started bringing him up. And
hold on, breaking news, Jason. I mean, Anwar asked when was it turn time?
Oh,
it's turn time.
Perfect.
Like 9 seconds ago, Anwar, turn time.
Man, if I can speak that into existence, man.
Is that your guy? Are you can pick turn time?
Yeah, I was gonna pick him. Man, if I can say and make it happen, man, when is someone gonna drop $100 super chat in here? Like, has that happened yet? I just want to see if that happens in the next 10 minutes, right?
Go
ahead, Jason.
Turn time would be a good choice, but I don't know that he's ready. You know, he's not a guy I don't think we'll be talking about next year. That's tough, dude, because it's kind of like we said, this class is so top heavy, but you can't pick those guys, right? Can I pick Jermaine Bishop?
Sure.
I mean, I think if they put Jermaine Bishop on offense, that dude has a chance to be an immediate contributor just because he's such a dynamic, or even a special teams guy. I do like Kosi Okpala, the linebacker out of Mady Creek, and obviously Texas has a need there. So, you know, if I'm going for a kind of under the radar guy, I guess I'd go with Kosi as maybe a guy. You know, he didn't have huge numbers this year as a senior. His team wasn't very good, but he's a guy who can do some stuff off the edge for you. He can play in a traditional linebacker between the box role for you too. So maybe Kosi Okpala would be a guy that might be able to help out as a true freshman a little bit.
I think Okpala is a really interesting guy because physically, I think he's the prototype of what they're looking. I think what he is like the next evolution of Trey Moore or Brad Spence in this defense. He's got the perfect linebacker frame of the modern college football times. He's 6'1.5", 215-ish. But from a skill set standpoint, like he loves to get after it and rush the passer. Like he's most exciting coming off the edge. Fascinated to see how, if he could play right away, I think it would be in direct competition with Brad Spence, who probably will be asked to do more now that Trey Moore is gone. I don't know that it's complete like for like, but it's kind of amazing how much they play Trey Moore when you look at these linebacker. Jason Atkinson, changing the topic slightly, but Anwar gave us turn time. So, and I said Cohen Brown. So I guess we talked about our underrated guys a little bit. You think Atkinson's day one possibly in the lineup? I mean, it's so much easier said than done. Even though Anthony Hill departs, they do return some guys with experience. Ty Anthony Smith had essentially taken some of Leon Galafal's snaps, but you have both of those guys coming back. You do have Brad Spence coming back. Is there a place for Atkinson as a 5-star linebacker to just come in and push his way onto the field?
Yes, I think he plays game one now. Got to remember, they brought Ant Hill along pretty slowly too. It's not like he was a day one starter, right? So it was probably mid-season or later before he really was pretty heavily involved. So I would expect we'll see a similar path to playing time for Tyler Atkinson. He's a dynamic player. He's not as physically developed as Anthony Hill was coming out of high school. And Hill was just a big dude. But he's so athletic. He's instinctual. And he's not a small guy by any means. But yeah, I would be surprised, Catch, knowing the need they have at linebacker, and maybe not a starter, day one starter, but knowing the need they have just for some depth pieces and kind of get him some experience. I'd be surprised if Tyler Atkinson wasn't playing in that season opener next year.
Anwar, I wrote about this in my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend on Sunday night. I broke the recruiting class down by how soon I thought they may hit the field or not hit the field. And tell me if you think if stop me when I say something that makes you go, oh, yeah, I don't know if I agree with that or that's an interesting one. I wrote possible first-year instant impact guys, Tyler Atkinson, Derek Cooper. I mean, 5-star, they are spending money on those guys for them to come in and make an impact. So,
yep, no problems.
Possible first-year contributors. So,
by the way, the caveat is contributor, right? Because we're not talking starter. You're talking about like Lance Jackson kind of contribution kind of
bingo.
thing. Okay,
Bingo.
yeah, okay, there you go.
And to be fair, when we talk about possible first-year instant impact players, it's probably Littleton. That's it. This wasn't a freshman class that by the end of it you were like. Now you could say Cade Phillips by the end.
Yeah.
But for the course of the entire season, I think it was somewhat limited. So I've got Atkinson and Cooper at the highest of the high tiers, where by the end of the year they could be starting. We'll call it like that. Possible first-year contributors: Richard Wesley, the edge; James Johnson, the defensive tackle; Kosi Akpala, the kid that Jason just mentioned as one of his favorite guys; Jermaine Bishop; Jamarian Carlton; Samari Matthews; deep snapper Trot O'Neill, who I probably could have put in the earlier group, but
you could put all three of those specialists in there. Who knows? That punter or kicker
go into the portal. There's no way
you have to go to the portal. I agree, because there's no guarantee. But if that kicker comes in, Jake Collette, and his lights out, he's starting.
They can't wait. If they haven't learned their Michael Kern lesson from literally less than.
No, I'm not saying don't go in the portal, but I'm saying there is a possibility that they could have a freshman punter or a freshman kicker start.
They probably should be on the possible first-year contributors, but they could elevate. I mean, they become the kicker. They become an instant impact player. Duly noted.
Hey, we know if there's any position they'll double up on, it'll be kicker and punter. I mean, like we know that.
So here's where it gets interesting. This is my likely redshirt and play in 2027 group of players. Quarterback Diabell, running back Jet Walker, wide receiver Chris Stewart, my guy, wide receiver Cohen Brown, who I think could elevate himself. I put Corey Wells and Vodney Cleveland in this group. Like, I don't know that they're getting on the field next year if they do sign with Texas. Linebacker Rocky Cummins, cornerback Howard Hayward Jr., safety Yaheem Riley, punter. You're going to say it for me, Mikey B, and then kicker Jake Collette. The special teams guys could easily be in the first-year contributors. Anybody from that group, Jason, that you think I'm not so sure that guy redshirts?
No, not really. I'm sorry. Can you read them off one more time? Go.
Diabell, Jet Walker, Chris Stewart, Cohen Brown, Corey Wells, Vodney Cleveland, Rocky Cummins, Howard Hayward Jr., Yaheem Riley, Mikey B, Jake Collette.
Howard, by the way. But
what did I say? Howard Hayward?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, no, I don't disagree with any of those assumptions. I mean, Cohen Brown maybe could work as, Rocky Cummings is a guy that I've seen his tape. I've seen his measurables. He's a big dude who can move. They have needs at linebacker. Could he come in and be like, oh shit, he's a pleasant surprise? Sure. But I think you're probably pretty accurate with most of those assessments.
And then onwards, there's the final group.
Okay.
This is the group that will need at least 2 seasons.
Okay.
It's tight end Charlie Gillette, offensive lineman Nick Robertson, Caden Scherer, and John Turntime.
Yes. The hard part about it is, like, first of all, I read the column. But the second thing is, Catch, we just, one thing we know is January is going to roll around, January 2nd. And the portal will open, and some of those guys are going to get pushed down. Some of those guys, after a year or two, may just say, like, nah, I'm good. And so it's almost like the other caveat has to be in a perfect world where all these guys stay. Yes, right? I would totally agree with you. But but we know we're living in an imperfect world. and we know, it's not show friends, it's show business. And we know that Sark ain't afraid to go out there and get some guys. And I think what would be interesting, Catch, is that how they approach the portal in January. Do they go with a sense of desperation that we got to get back to the playoffs, or do they stay the course? But to your point of everything that you're saying, I don't disagree with anybody on your list at this moment, because it's just kind of hard to know how the things would pan out. But I don't disagree with you.
Jason, as it relates to turn time, the most recent, and they'll probably have, before I finish this sentence, there will probably be the next guy, but 9 minutes ago was turn time. I love this guy. And I know that people at Texas love him, because the word I had always got from the moment that he committed was that in this age of NIL, and I think Jamarian Carlton probably falls into this category as well, I think they've taken less money to be a part of this Texas football class. He was turn time, not motivated first and foremost by money. He's such a good football player. He's the kind of guy that you put his film on and you're like, oh, well, that guy's just going to play in the NFL one day. The tricky thing is that he's got a body that is still going through some real physical development issues. He was smaller this year than I think a lot of us thought he would play at. He was wrestling and doing some things that just kind of kept his mass lean. He very much kind of reminds me of Dan Neal, where it's like, okay, dude, you might weigh 180 pounds when you're 50, but we got to find a way to get you up to 320 pounds when you're 22. I think they're going to be patient with turn time, but I think this guy could be the captain of the team in 5 seasons.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. Sorry. Fantastic prospect. You remember a year ago, it was like, oh my gosh, John Turntine and Felix Ojo was actually below Turntine at that point. I mean, it was like, okay, they didn't get these offensive linemen the last couple of years. They better get John Turntine. He was thought of as being the can't miss guy in this class. I mean, his body kind of stretched out a little bit. He lost some weight. He's been working to put that weight back on. That's tough to do in season and stuff. And North Crowley's going to play for a long time. So Texas will get him on campus in January. They'll put him on a nutrition plan. I think talent-wise, Catch, he's capable of being a first-year player, which is very rare for offensive linemen. But I think talent-wise, he has that. But physically, he's probably not going to be ready. So he's not going to pack on that kind of weight that quickly. So, it might take him, a year. Who knows, maybe even 2 before he's ready. But, yeah, I think that guy's going to be an exceptional player for Texas. You said team captain, team leader. I could certainly see that. I could see him being – he has all conference type of characteristics and a skill set. He just needs to kind of get his body in line with those, with his skills, because right now he's just a little bit light. He needs to add some strength and some muscle mass, and he'll do that. Texas will do that when they get him on a nutrition
plan.
Take him
down to GNC and get him some muscle milk. Take him to have him go right now, because there's certain positions that they need the help now. Again, you need him ready. You probably need to go to the portal to get ready. But you're right, from a physical standpoint, Jason. He's, I don't know how much good weight he can gain in one off season. What is he, like 275 right now, something like that, Jason?
I'm not even sure if he's that hit. Well, I don't listen around that, but I don't know if he's quite that heavy. But.
Yeah, so to get him to that 300-ish kind of range, 290-ish or so, you probably
at a minimum. At an absolute minimum.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it's going to take, because but Goosby's at what?
See, Goosby
is not.
Goosby was 275 when he was at the same stage, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he did it, but that level of physical transformation that we saw from Trevor Goosby is literally catching lightning in a bottle. Correct. It is, it's one of those things, you see it, and then it's like, well, the next guy that come in, he'll just do what Trevor Goosby did, and it's like, I don't think you understand. I've gone back and looked. Trevor Goosby's like a once in the last 25 years kind of player development prospect of what we thought he could be, and then actually being that guy, but doing it on fast forward. This guy did it in less than 12 months. There were guys that were showing up on campus, offensive linemen, who Texas were recruiting who were like, yeah, man, don't ask me about Kelvin Banks. The guy that caught my eye was Trevor Gooseby. And it was like, that guy affected recruiting because as a young player, guys were catching their eyes. I think turn time's so interesting. By the way, we are up to 16 in. It's Derek Cooper and then a bunch of defensive guys, Jason, in terms of like what we're waiting on. Cooper's the only offensive guy, and then there's 3 defensive tackles, and then you've got Wesley Atkinson Cummings, whose name I need to correctly spell, and then Teray Davis, and there's not a whole lot. By my count, we are waiting on 8 guys, and I don't know that all 8 of those guys will definitely end up in this class. As you mentioned before we go off the air, we'll likely have an idea of what Vodney Cleveland is doing. And what time do we expect Corey Wells to go down?
I've hit him up, and I've been talking to some Auburn people. We're all in the dark on that one. I mean, we know it's close, but he's not giving anybody any time, or he's not talking to me. He's not talking to people on the Auburn side. So kind of just waiting for that one catch to happen. A couple of those guys you mentioned are West Coast guys, so Richie Wesley, Rocky Cummings, Teray Davis in Colorado. J.J. Johnson and Derek Cooper, both in that Miami-Fort Lauderdale area, like, all right, guys, this is what's going on. Like,
it's going to be lunchtime on the East Coast.
Yeah, so I've got a pretty good in on Derek Cooper. Maybe I'll ping that person here in a minute and be like, hey, you guys have a ETA on when you're going to sign? But, yeah, and I know Cooper was at an award ceremony last night. He won some kind of award for the Miami area as best player, so maybe he's sleeping in a little bit after that. I don't know. But
can I give Anwar some breaking news that has nothing to do with Texas, but kind of does have something to do with Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Jason, you will understand when I say this. South Florida has a new head football coach.
They didn't hire Gruden, did they?
According to Pete Thamel, Ohio State offensive coordinator Brian Hartline.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Expected to be the next coach at South Florida. He's OSU's play caller and built a reputation as the country's top developer of wide receivers.
Yes.
If you're Texas, you love having this guy up out of the paint with these wide receivers that you've been recruiting.
Oh my God,
that's a big development.
That's a huge hire for South Florida. That is one, to your point, because first of all, I know that name because he damn near has been stealing the top guys in the state of Texas for years. So I'm like, damn, this guy here just didn't he get Garrett Wilson as well? Several years ago, right? So I remember that. Like, I was like, damn, this guy's really good. And yeah, feeling like, man, we just lost a good coach. Now that you tell me that's the replacement, I'll take him for 2 years before he gets another gig. That's South Florida's doing the right thing. You made my day, Catch.
I'm glad I could give that to you because normally
awesome. I'm happy for Anwar from a South Florida perspective, but that's a kick in the nuts to Ohio State, right? So
that's a really good. I'm a little surprised. I guess what South Florida, you know what that proves? If you're Brian Hartline, you're like, man, I'm getting no interviews.
Yeah.
I'm not, right? And he's like, but you know what South Florida can do? It can get you a big job. I can go in, I can win there right away.
Correct.
And I can be out of there in
2 years.
3
years, you're done. And that's what they are. They are a stepping stone to something else. And that because they screwed it up so many years ago. They're just now working on getting their on campus stadium. And look, hell, if you're Texas, look, you didn't beat Ohio State on the field. But I mean, damn it, man, that's a win. Like at least you can hope going into next season when you play them that you're like, well, shoot, at least they won't have that killer as a coach, and you don't have to worry about that part.
No, Ohio State is weaker today with that loss. Like he is such a prominent piece of the puzzle for them. They've got a Big Ten championship game on Saturday. I wonder, that's not an insignificant distraction that he just took the South Florida job, but that's probably a different story for a different show and a different topic. Chad Hastings jumping in.
Hey, before we go to Chad, sorry. I am told Derek Cooper will be signing at 2:00 at his school. So it'll be an afternoon signing for Derek Cooper.
There you go, Derek Cooper.
Now that sometimes that will be he'll sign, they'll have a ceremony, but I'm told he's actually signing it too. So we'll keep an eye on it, but nothing to be worried about. I'm told he's signing with Texas today, so everything should be good.
Yeah, the breaking news right now is congratulations to Anwar and USF, but also that sound you hear is happiness in Ann Arbor, happiness in Happy Valley, happiness in Athens, Georgia, and anything you can do to kind of tear at the fabric of a team that looks like Ohio State. That's interesting. Brian Hartline reportedly headed to South Florida. All right, as we take a look at a couple things, guys, we're hitting 9 a.m. Central, which means it's about to be 7 a.m. out on the West Coast. So we'll probably start to see some West Coast things going on. Still looking at, is Jalen Lott going to officially sign with Oregon? We talked about Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson.
Man, I've got breaking news of the similar ilk.
Okay.
That affects you.
Okay. You're maybe about to say the name I was about to say. What is it?
No, what were you about to say?
I was about to ask Jason if he's heard anything about Brandon Arrington, the highest rated guy in the Aggie class, who's a California guy. I would expect that to maybe start going down here in the next couple hours, but it could also be a special, event later on.
I haven't heard anything on him, but he's been kind of wavering off and on for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah. And he's that right now, looking at the Aggie class, just a lot of guys signed, the bigger names, KJ Edwards and Aaron Gregory and everything, but he's right up there at the top of that Rivals on 3 ranking in terms of his grade. And as of right now, he is still not signed. But again, a California kid, it might just be about the timing. Catch what you have?
This is now being reported by multiple outlets, but I'm just going to read the Football Scoop tweet because it includes the part that you're going to be most interested in.
Okay.
Kansas State head coach Chris Kleiman likely to step down this week, as Ned Seaton reported. I don't know who that is, but apparently he's the guy that broke the story. Mm-hmm. Colin Klein will be the next man up, we're told.
I saw a blurb on that in the chat about that, Colin Klein.
So, like I said, literally it's a story in the similar vein as Anwar's, in that offensive coordinator. Obviously, he's not Kansas State, not a team that you care about, but the coordinator leaving is as they get ready for their playoffs and everything else. Just as we'd mentioned, you wonder how this might impact Ohio State in the playoffs. You wonder what it means to have your offensive coordinator. We've seen some coaches. We're watching Ole Miss blow a lot of stuff up. So I wonder, I'm sure he'll be given latitude. And again, probably a story for a different show, but interesting breaking news involving a pair of head coaching situations and kind of the trickle down effect. It all does connect to Texas at some point, somehow, some way when it's all said and done.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so we'll continue. We watch those stories will happen from time to time of the play caller, especially when it's an offensive play caller. Do you let him coach through a playoff run? It's not just one bowl game. If it works the way you want it to, do you let him do it? Or do you go ahead and move on and some other coach steps up? We'll have to see what Ohio State and A&M do.
I can tell you, USF, you let Hartline do whatever he wants.
Absolutely. Hey, Ohio State just lost a receiver commitment, by the way. So
wow, how about that?
This one was in the works before. This was in the works before today, but Caden Dixon-Wyatt, who's from Mater Dei, flipped from Ohio State to USC. So.
Wow. Okay. All right. Real quick, guys, before I duck
Hold
back.
on. Can I real quick? You're real quick. James, this is a big one. James Johnson, the defensive tackle from the East Coast, he's in. So one of the big ones that Texas was waiting on is in, and now we're just down to the dirty half dozen. Sorry, Chad. Continue.
Derek Cooper, Tyler Atkinson, both still out there, correct? They still have not signed. Yeah. Those are the two obviously huge names that you're looking for. All right, couple quick things. Let me once again give a little love to Longhorn Wealth Management Group. They sponsor the Recruiting Insider each and every week. John's up in the Dallas area helping build out that Collin County, Texas X's chapter. So if you're up in that part of the world, look that group up and get involved. Again, John was able to get to DKR last Friday night. He's excited about that win over A&M. He's also excited about the recruiting commitments that are going to be coming in today and a successful signing period. He wants to celebrate with all of you, offering that free 90-minute consultation, the free 90-minute private consultation to find out how to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, ensure your legacy. If it's time for you to have that talk about a certified financial planner, this is a way to do it. And if you love working with Longhorn folks, if you're a Longhorn fan, it's another great way to do it because, like I told you, John is Longhorn through and through. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. And again, thanks to John and his crew for sponsoring the Recruiting Insider each and every week here on OB Live. All right, guys, as I duck out, I'm only seeing one super chat. It is a quick one for Anwar. Won't take but a second. From Clint. Anwar, what does it mean that Anthony Hill didn't participate in senior day? Is it wishful thinking he may come back?
I mean, he's got to go through the process, right? But when he gets the college advisory committee and see what Chad just disappeared. He just threw it to us and then popped out. He doesn't want to hear the answer. He doesn't even want to hear the answer, right? He's just like, I'll just throw it to you. I mean, look, all three of us can have the conversation about this, right? But I mean, he's going to make a business decision. I don't know if him not participating in senior day does or doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, I mean, he's got to go through what the advisory committee will tell him. But if he feels like he's got a pretty high grade, and look, he made a decision down the stretch not to really risk the injury. And again, he was injured, but they didn't want to risk it. So I don't know. I don't think it's a for sure thing. I don't know, Catch or Jason, what you guys feel. I don't think it's a for sure thing that's an indicator that he's coming back.
No, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
My bigger question is like the Connor Robertson walking. Like, what do we make of that one?
Well, there's a couple. He and injuries, both kind of interesting. I know that this season, right. I'm going to have some of this in the war room, but I know it's not been the season that Jack injuries, I think, anticipated. I think there's probably going to be some conversations about what are the expectations. He ends the season on a really high note, but 10 games in, I think there was some question about whether or not, is this where he needs to be? Does Texas have the guy that they want? Is this the right fit? Because if it's not, he can walk and be a grad senior. So I think he's got some options. It gets to be really difficult at a certain age when you have so many core credits to be able to transfer them over to another school. So I think him graduating just gives some options. And, I wouldn't read too much into it. Connor Robertson's an interesting one. Does he think that he's just done? I don't know. I think there's some guys that we just need to follow up with. I haven't put too much thought into it, Jason, where I've thought, it means definitely something, but there's definitely some open-ended questions that I have that probably need to be answered.
Yeah, the Connor Robertson one, I mean, kind of solidified that line to some degree. If he's not coming back, to me, that's a pretty big development. I mean, who's your center going to be, and what does that mean for your interior offensive line depth?
But I don't think it would be the NFL. I think decide that he's done. That's
what I'm wondering is like, is he getting his degree? He's like, I'm going to just move on past my football life and do something else. I don't know.
All questions that we'll dig around and work to get answers.
Yeah, the other thing that was interesting too was, and I think we have the anticipation, but like Gooseby didn't walk either. So I don't know where he is from a credit standpoint, but he's another guy that he's got to go through the advisory committee and make a decision as what they want to do.
He's only a redshirt sophomore, so
he's played 3 seasons though. This is his 3rd season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite accelerated.
Yeah.
I guess he could. All these guys are early enrollees these days. By the way, Jason, I'm going to circle back to that. Jelani McDonald is I think, to answer the original question, I think Anthony Hill is going to go pro, but I don't know that that's locked in. I think there are questions about Jelani McDonald that I think he needs to come back, but I also wonder, if he's one of those guys that if he feels like he can go in the 3rd round, for some guys that's enough. And, he's always been a guy that there had been anticipation that he might be a 3 and gone kind of a player. So I think, those are situations that we'll need to keep an eye on. And that's why you're at orangebloods.com. Scan that QR code. Join the site for $1 today. Check out what we do. We'll have the War Room coming out tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So we'll have updates on all of these things. I see P. Miller with a $10 super chat. I'll hop in there real quick. I know we're doing the National Signing Day show, but what do portal pieces do to you guys project? Do we need to realistically compete for a national championship? And do we think we need to sell out to win in Arch's last season? I thought they should have sold out this season, P. Miller. That's what they said they were going to do. And I think in retrospect, I think they realized that it didn't quite sell out. Onward, and for you, they have to go into the portal and absolutely do what?
Number one, you got to strengthen the offensive line. That's the number one is offensive line. Number two for me is running back at position and see what you can get one out of there. I'm not going to 100% slam the backs because listen, without the offensive line helping them, like there are some times where they were handicapped, but look, CJ Baxter, unfortunately has battled injuries, throughout his career at Texas. It's unfortunate, but it kind of is what it is. And I just think you need somebody else, as a compliment to Wisner. I don't know where the young guys are, their progression, but I need offensive line as the number one priority. I want them to attack that catch the way they attack defensive line every year. Give me bodies. Just give me bodies. Give me options. Give me options. And I know you're only going to play 5, but come off. I think the whole, well, we just develop our guys thing. That's okay. Cool. Go get you some solid, proven guys who can do this thing. Because Arch needs better protection, and we know. And look, and the way Arch played down the stretch catch is a lot of it had to do when the offensive line started playing a little bit better. But don't let ego get in your way. Go get offensive linemen, and then number 2 is a running back, and then I'm fine with whatever direction you want to go after that.
By the way, Teray Davis just newly minted Longhorn after flipping to Texas from UCLA. He's officially in the signing hall. That brings us up to 18, if I'm looking at the number correctly. And now we're down to waiting on 5 guys. So the names are getting far and fewer between. We haven't talked about Teray Davis yet, Jason. That just went down while I update the thread on Orange Bloods. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, given that it's gone down in the last 24 hours?
Out of Boulder, Colorado. Like you said, he was committed to UCLA for quite a while. And then once UCLA fired their coach, it was pretty much inevitable he wasn't going to wind up at UCLA. It really came down to Texas and Washington. Came in, he was supposed to keep coming in for his Texas official visit for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. But his team kept winning in the playoffs. Well, finally he was able to come in last weekend. He's not a guy. I mean, believe me, I had tried. I've reached out to him. I've reached out to his coach, and I was never able to get much out of him. He doesn't talk to really anybody other than maybe like a quick 3-word response. But he's a guy, like some people projected him on offense, more of an athlete. Texas likes him as a safety. He's about 6'1". I think he's like 185, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check on that. Yeah, 6'1", 185. I looked at his film actually again last night just as a refresher. Really, you can see why he's considered maybe an offensive player too. Really good ball skills in the secondary, good high point in the ball. Big kid, doesn't mind contact. So he's kind of been a late riser in the recruiting ranking stuff. I think, sorry, my phone is going crazy here. I think On3 actually has him the highest. He's about 150th nationally. And I don't have his profile pulled up in front of me, but On3, Rivals, I should say, has him about 150th nationally. I don't think ESPN and 24/7 even have him ranked nationally. But again, I think he had a really good senior season. Big, fluid athlete, good size in that defensive backfield. So I'd expect that'll change as they update their rankings. But nice pickup for Texas. They flipped him from UCLA last night. Kind of somewhat expected when he took that last minute visit to Texas, but Texas beat out, Wisconsin, Washington, some other schools that were on him late. Interesting
that Rivals has him rated as the number 1 player in the state of Colorado, 150 nationally. And that 24/7 has him the 5th guy in Colorado, and ESPN has him as the 8th. I kind of like taking a flyer on a guy that some people like high enough to have that high, but maybe there's a little bit of a lack of consensus. There's no way that they broke the bank to bring this guy in, and yet it would appear that he might be one of the guys in this class that brings some sneaky value. It sounds like Texas kind of walked into this one the misfortune of UCLA and the lack of momentum they have certainly paved the door for this to open up. Real quick, what was I about to say? There was another, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. It had something to do with, Dia Bell. I just wanted to have a quick Dia Bell conversation. We haven't had that yet. And actually, Anwar, I'll come to you on this. I mean, you and I have had a million conversations in the last 4 or 5 years where it's like, it's Quinn, right? And then Arch enters the puzzle. And then there's a counterbalance to Quinn and Arch that actually worked much better than I think anybody could have ever guessed, that there would be as much symmetry in how it all unfolded without friction.
Yeah.
It feels like they think they've got that with Dia Bell as well. For you, is KJ Lacey an ointment, like a fly in the Dia Bell ink, or like how do you see quarterback unfolding, knowing that on paper Dia Bell is supposed to be Arch Manning, he's supposed to be Quinn Ewers, he will be a guy, but maybe the first, although Quinn didn't have to worry about this, but he would have wanted a pathway to playing time. He would have wanted to know, hey, when am I playing? I at some point, Texas is going to recruit one of these 5-star quarterbacks, and they're going to be, I don't know, slightly difficult to work with. Like Steve Sarkisian's had the best of all worlds, which is high-level talented quarterbacks that haven't been pretty easy to manage, and that like they haven't pushed any red buttons. And it's a position where everywhere else across the country, buttons keep getting pushed. Yeah. And Texas is like, yeah, we got a guy. He's going to come in, he'll redshirt, he'll wait a year. Everybody's going to get drafted. It's all good. KJ will play, and then he'll play, and everybody will be happy and be first-round picks.
All right, so I gotta start. I gotta tell you something that you don't know, which is I love KJ Lacey. I had the Alex Dunlap seeing Casey Thompson reaction when I saw KJ Lacey, and I just didn't go as far as wanted to make a bet with Jason that no one would pay 5 to 6 years later, right? So, because the staff is still waiting on our you and I catch, we're still waiting on our stuff. I think KJ Lacey is just a baller. I think when I seen him in practice, I think he throws a great ball. I don't think it's anything insignificant that when the day was done, that Texas decided that there was going to be 3 quarterbacks that traveled this year, and Trey Owens wasn't going to be on that list because KJ Lacey had already surpassed him. And some may say that's more of a reflection of Trey Owens than it is KJ, but I think 2 things can be true, right? And so I think KJ is going to, go in this season as the clear-cut number 2 guy. Next season, rather, he'll be the clear-cut number 2. And we know when the real battle will take place, and now it's just up to Dia Bell to kind of catch up. But I won't sleep on KJ. Like I think I think they're both ballers. So we're clear. If you told me who's the starter in 2027, I'm probably going to say KJ, to be quite honest with you. But just because I think he's just sneaky good, man. And then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Dia comes in and blows it out the water. I'm not going to bet against KJ. I think he's an absolute ball. I think he'd do some good things in the future.
Anwar, can I tell you a story? You know who else loves KJ Lacey?
Who's that?
My 18-year-old football-loving teenage daughter. She saw a picture of KJ Lacey on my computer, and she's like, "Oh, he's cute." And like, who's that? And I was like, "Oh, he's going to be the quarterback at Texas, blah, blah, blah." And this was back when he was a recruit. Later that day, I had stuff set up on my phone for notifications, and KJ Lacey was doing a live video on Instagram. So I pop on there to see what he's talking about. And I see in the bottom, also being viewed by Kinsley Sukermel, my daughter. I took a screen capture and I circled. And I go, "What the hell is this?"
Well, so just so we're clear, your daughter and I love him for different reasons. Okay, just like put this out here. I like him as an
That's
athlete.
how rumors get started. So, Anwar, it's a good thing that you clarified.
Hey,
I like him as an athlete. Okay, your daughter can like him for whatever reason she likes him for.
I don't even know if we've talked about this, but Billy Lucci reporting that Colin Klein is going to Kansas State to take over for Chris Kleiman.
Yeah.
So, wow,
I mean, it seems pretty, and we'll coach in the playoffs, but
he will. Has that been reported? I hadn't seen that. Okay.
By the way, I see that there's some scuttlebutt about Penn State and Matt Campbell, and it's like that dude just nobody will ever learn. Okay, so I wanted to
back again with him.
I know
who is his agent that generates this buzz every year to try to get a raise.
I mean, Penn State, you start swinging and missing on the BYU guy, and now you're at the, oh, crap stage of the hiring process. Here's what I think about Diabell and KJ Lacey for that matter. I think it's one or the other. I think the thing that we will never fully appreciate with Arch is that for the first time in the history of college football, high-level recruiting, 5-star quarterbacks who are top 5 prospects in the country, like that level of guy, we've never seen a guy wait. The previous long wait time in 25 years had been Vince Young waiting for a year and a half to become the starting quarterback back in 2003 after the Oklahoma game. That's literally of every 5-star quarterback that's followed since, they've all been on the field faster than that. Arch was the first to wait 2 full years before he would take over the starting quarterback job. And that has never happened before in the modern era of college football. It's never happened. If KJ Lacey wins the job, it will be asking lightning to strike twice at a position and in a place that has never struck twice before. Now, I know his dad's a former pro athlete. I know
KJ has some Manning to him just in his personality and stuff too. But
and if lightning strikes twice, but we have to acknowledge it's still lightning striking twice. And it's probably
I said KJ, I meant Dion, sorry.
No, I know what you meant, but probably more unlikely to happen than likely. So I just think that, plus, just because KJ Lacey would start over in 2027, if he were the starter, doesn't mean that he'd be ready to go pro after 12 games. He'll have literally been teammates with a guy whose family's been telling him, you got to start 25, you got to start 25. The best quarterbacks all start 25. I think whoever the starting quarterback in 2027 is probably the favorite to be the starting quarterback in 2028. I'm not pushing back on the notion, Anwar, that it could be KJ Lacey. He's good. He's good and very cerebral, and I think he's going to be an excellent college quarterback. But I think it's going to be a survival. One of those guys is going to win the job, and one of those guys is going to transfer. I just think it's as simple as that. And if it goes any way other than that, then Steve Sarkisian really does.
Oh, Derek Cooper's in.
There it is.
So, yep.
That's a big one, actually. Not that anybody was worried about that, because at the end of the day, boy, you're on Johnny on the spot. I just clicked on that, and it says it was tweeted 12 seconds ago. So, Jason, you must have seen that like when it hit.
No, I got notifications set on my phone. And it.
Oh, okay.
Well, you've been beating me on those notifications, but
well, you beat me on that one. And so there we go. Derek Cooper in. I'll update that thread, Jason. But
I'm working on it. Go ahead. You keep talking.
No, but I was just going to say, can Sark keep? I guess the question I'll just ask you, Anwar, as Jason updates that thread. Can Sark keep it up? I mean, I doubted that he could do it with Arch, and I'm doubting it now, but he is the one guy in college football that does seem to find a way to keep getting quarterbacks who are willing to listen to him with regards to patience. Patience is the best thing for Sark, that Arch was willing to wait a second year. It's so hard to find these college quarterbacks who are like, oh, yeah, you don't want me to play? You want me to just sit and wait? Cool. I'm patient. It's a hell of a thing to ask these kids.
See, the thing is, and this is where it becomes very challenging. I think your question's a really good one. Quinn didn't have to be patient. right? I mean, all he had to do was beat out Hudson Card, and that was it. Like there was no patience required there. Manning is a unique breed because of their football background. They understand the process. They understand the importance of waiting. They want to get a certain amount of starts under their belt, which we've talked about for years. And so that family, you can tell them, hey, even though they may have been disappointed about last season, they can understand, okay, this is part of the process. But everybody else ain't a Manning. And everybody else ain't thinking of, ain't got Hall of Fame uncles and Hall of Famers in their family and all that kind of stuff. And everybody, now you revert back to the kids, Catch, who were high school standouts, who thought they were going to play after a year or two. And look, me as a quarterback sitting behind Arch Manning, that's one thing. Me sitting behind Dia Bell, can I stomach that? Me sitting behind KJ Lacey, can I stomach that? Right? That's where it's like I can rationalize, like, if you're KJ, you're like, okay, he's Arch Manning. Like, of course I got to sit behind this guy. But anybody else who you consider to be amongst your peers, and you're like, I'm just as good as that dude, that's when I think it gets a little bit trickier. Quinn didn't have that to worry about. Arch is different. KJ can sit behind Arch, but everything else is all equal footing. And then when it's all equal, it's like, man, I'm better than that dude. Now, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to hang around for that.
Thing is, you'd probably have to convince Dia Bell, if he were to lose the job to KJ Lacey in 2027, that he'd have to, like, you've got to convince him that Lacey isn't going to be a it's one thing to say you're not going to start in year 2 and you've lost the quarterback battle, right? That's a tough pill to swallow, but it's another thing to not be able to say, okay, cool. Well, if I just wait, I'm definitely the guy next year, which is what Arch was able to do, right? Like they were patient, but there also was no clutter whatsoever. They had built the program up. Whenever he took over, he would inherit a program that would be a preseason number 1. I think it's a little different, like you said, for either of those guys to lose to the other comes with no guarantee beyond the next 5 seconds. You don't know whether you're going to play that year. You don't know the implications of what it means for the next season. If Sark can pull it off, I'm not trying to run anybody out of town. This is a modern college football conversation. It is a bit miraculous that it worked out the way that it did with Ewers and Manning, because you know what? OU didn't keep Dylan Gabriel for the exact same reason. The thing that we're talking about, they were like, well, we got to play Jackson Arnold, so buy Dylan Gabriel. And that Dylan Gabriel's a better player. Still is a better player. He's never not been a better player than Jackson Arnold. But there was, what are you paying the guy? How did you get him here? We got to keep him. We can't let him transfer. And quarterback's a different animal. I just will say this. I think Texas is in fantastic shape at quarterback. I think KJ Lacey, now that we've had a chance to see him in the system for a little bit, there's a real sense that, okay, that guy could be really good. Then they signed Dia Bell. One of those two guys has to hit.
Yeah.
And Texas is set for the rest of the decade. And considering Anwar, I feel like you and I there's not enough appreciation for it. Wasn't that long ago when the Texas quarterback situation was a mess. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And then Sam's did stabilize it to the point where, like, you were competent, if a bit uneven and up and down. But we're going to get to a point where it's 2025. It feels like the rest of the decade is complete. And we have gone 2018 Sam Ehlinger, 2019 Sam Ehlinger, 2020 Sam Ehlinger, a year of Casey Thompson and Hudson Card, which comes with an asterisk because of the thumb injury. I mean, who knows what sliding glass doors moment that might have been had Casey just never gotten hurt. But then it's Quinn, Arch, and then either Dia Bell and whatever we see of KJ Lacey to finish out a couple of seasons there. The next thing you know, you've had a decade where, other than that 1 year anomaly, your worst quarterback is Quinn or Arch this season or Sam. You know what I mean? Like, we've reached a point where quarterback's good, and now it's about will it, and maybe even very good. Quarterback's very good. Now, can it be great? That's what we've been waiting on. But boy, we should at least mention that it was just a few years ago where being very good sounded great.
Hey, and Catch, I always joke about our things that we write during the summer, right? And one of my things has always been like the backup quarterback at Texas because of the long injury history, and it goes back to the national championship game. It's one of the first times in many years that Texas has actually had a quarterback that started all 12 games. Like, this, wrap your head around that. Like, this is, and I've written this every single year. That's one of my things, of course, with the non-conference schedule and you and super blue chips. And this is the first time in a billion years that Texas has had a guy not miss a game. It's not an inconsequential thing.
Mr. Hastings, you're back. It's the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, Derek Cooper. I'll say it again. Derek Cooper signs with Texas. That is huge. Jason talked about an event later in the afternoon. Now that'll just be he's official, but they want to still celebrate kind of a thing with Derek Cooper. That's big. West Coast stuff. They are starting to wake up the Oregon class, but I don't see Jalen Lott signed yet. Also, California guy we talked about, Brandon Arrington, did sign with A&M. So that class pretty much done as you look through it. But that's the highest rated guy in the Aggie class, California kid. And now he is signed with the Aggies. Still no Malachi Lee. He's out in Hawaii. He'll wake up. We talked about Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson earlier. I'll keep an eye there. Again, Derek Cooper, huge news, signing with Texas. The two coaching stories I think are worthy of mentioning again. Brian Hartline, the play caller on offense at Ohio State, is going to end up at USF, but we would assume will coach the playoff. And then Colin Klein, OC at A&M, reportedly going to go back to his alma mater and coach K-State because Kleiman's ready to retire. So that would obviously affect the Aggies' playoff run, although he is expected to call plays. Jason,
hey, real quick, we had Josiah Vilmail, a guy we've talked about here that we thought might go to Texas. He just tweeted he's going to sign on Friday now, and I think Colin Klein's going to get him a pretty good player on Friday. So.
Okay. So you think that's where he's ending up? That's a K-State.
Feel pretty good about it. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. I wanted to ask you about two other names. Derek Cooper signed now. What about a couple of these other big ones? Tyler Atkinson, Richie Wesley. Are you hearing anything that could happen in the next, hour? Are these guys that are waiting till February, or maybe there's an event coming up this afternoon?
Yeah, it won't be February. Atkinson, sorry, Chad, I'm typing as I talk to you here. Atkinson, I don't have a timeline on him. Like, I like Tyler and his family. They like to do big productions. Remember, he went on the McAfee show to make his commitment, and he was given the key to the city recently. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're just having some kind of big celebratory event there. I don't think there's anything to be worried about. I don't have a time for him. Richie Wesley said 12:30, which would be 2:30 our time. Now, again, could that be a Derek Cooper thing where he's signing at earlier and then having a ceremony at 12:30 his time, California time? I don't know, but he said 12:30 signing at his school. So
okay.
Either way, I think I would be shocked if there was any hesitation from either one of those two to sign with Texas.
Somebody in the chat also wanted me to mention again that the BYU coach has turned down Penn State. That has happened. Kalani Sitake has said no to Penn State. On my way out here, I see a super chat, fellas, for $10 from Jody. It says, how concerning is it that UT seems to rely on O-line in the 3-star range in its recruiting classes? Am I right about that? Does the Pancake House, haven't heard that phrase in a while, does the Pancake House need to start throwing in some hash browns and coffee? All right.
To be fair, the Pancake House hasn't been a thing for several years now. So
it's Pancake Factory, but
Pancake Factory.
Yeah. Factory is what it was. Yes.
I think, look, I think Texas, yes, they're having a problem recruiting elite offensive linemen. I mean, they have not won at that position. I think it's a little different, like the Fasusi recruitment was different than the Felix Ojo recruitment. And I think they also looked at Felix Ojo and just felt like for what the price point of that guy was, which is a different set of circumstances than offensive linemen previous to him in previous classes. They did get Brandon Baker. John Turntine is a guy that started out as a potential 5-star, high 4-star. He's, bottomed out to kind of just below that, I think, by most national observers because of his frame. Yeah, they got an offensive lineman problem. They have not recruited that position well. I think now they're in a position where they're asking, how do you recruit this position, Anwar, in the modern era? I think they probably walk away from Brandon Baker saying we're good. That guy has actually come on but for, I think, the first year and a half of his career, I think they've thought, what did we do? Was that smart? We could have done so much more with our $1.5 million-ish over the course of a couple of years. I think they are stuck in between stick and go on offensive line recruiting. I think what they do in the portal may help us figure it out. Maybe Sark will talk about this today. I keep thinking about questions that I would want to ask Sark. One of them is the 105 question. Is that happening? Are you working under the assumption, will you go into the portal with the assumption that you've got that kind of a number to play with or not? Offensive line, like, what's up? You guys have nobody that was ready to play this year. There doesn't seem like there's anybody who next year, there's no Trevor Gooseby on the team where it's like, oh, well, next year that guy takes over at left tackle when Banks leaves. And I know that sounds ominous, but he's got this. There's no one else in the program, certainly in the interior. Like, you can't go and Nate Kibble's on it. What do you mean Nate Kibble's on it? Nate Kibble wasn't on it this year. Who's on it? And they don't have anybody who's on it. And I don't really know how to answer this question other than they better go get some dudes in the portal.
Yeah, Catch, I don't know if it's like the kicker thing, right? Where you just start telling yourself, like, you need to get a proven commodity. Don't, and there is that balance of, yes, you need to develop and guys need to develop, but of those offensive linemen, you get 4 or 5 a year, right? I mean, how many of those guys pop when it's all said and done in each class? Catch, what is it, 2 if you're lucky? Yeah. And so how many of these guys are you stacking over the next few years in order to actually have a few that you can find a 5 or 6? Because once you get into 7, I mean, it kind of usually gets kind of sketch. Once you go to the 7th guy on the offensive lines, like, I don't know. So that guy may not be ready. So it's a great point as relates to that. If it's going to take a few years to develop, how do you approach it? How do you got guys getting developed, or does that mean you just get 3 stars and 4 stars and then kind of pass on the 5 stars unless you just think it's an absolute stud, or you get the 3 or 4 stars and then you have to sprinkle in some of these transfer portal guys that are ready to go while those other guys are going, but you still aren't spending $1 million that's just sitting there on the bench. There's certain things, Catch, like the quarterback for sure can be dead weight, right? Dead money, rather. Like Diabell, you go into KJ Lacey, like you understand, like you don't expect those guys to play right away. So you already chalk that up to dead money. But how many other positions can you have dead money, and how much dead money can you have on an offensive line?
All questions that I would love. I'm really fascinated by how Sark approaches talking. I have a feeling this is going to be part. There's going to be a bunch of questions about the playoffs. It's inevitable, but I wonder when it's legitimately recruiting related, like, how much of the sausage making process does he show us? I'm fascinated by Brandon Harris's role in all of this. What is he doing when Sark's having to be the OC and the head coach during the season? The portal's around the corner, money and revenue share, and all of these things are new and they're interesting. And Sark has never once really led us behind the curtain and said, this is our process, this is how it works. I probably don't anticipate him doing it right. Am I expecting a leopard to have new spots today and be like, let me tell you about Brandon Harris, and I'm going to sing his praises. And after I'm done, 5 minutes on Brandon, we're going to talk about Taylor Searles, and I'm just going to go down the list of all my people. Like, we know. But, boy, it really is as if they invented this thing like sausage, and we've never heard the expression, you don't want to see how the sausage is made. And we're literally asking, how is this sausage made? It's yummy. And it's like, I really don't want to tell you about that. No, you have to tell me, how does this thing end up tasting so good? And you're like, well, since you asked, and then you come away wishing you hadn't asked. I wonder if it's like that. I wonder if we knew, we'd be like, oh, geez, it's that tough. It's that, I don't know. Like I'm really curious, because we're talking so much about all these new processes. What will he show us today? I'm really interested, Sark. Show me something, anything. I really don't care what it is. I have a million questions that have never been asked before. And I hope that the reporters that show up, and I usually think this group of reporters is really smart on recruiting. There's some really nuance. This offensive line question is a really good one. How do you guys navigate recruiting the offensive line now, knowing it usually takes a couple of years for a guy to develop? It costs a certain amount of money to get a guy in the first place. Can you afford to take a guy that costs that much money and play him on the bench? These are all new questions that he's literally never been asked before. And I don't know. I hope he gets asked some of these, because, I'd like to be, I don't know. And recruiting for a long time has been the kind of thing that you could ask Jason and I a question about the process. And I feel like we could tell you our head, like frontwards and backwards. It's a little bit just more questionable. I literally don't know how to answer that offensive line question on War.
The thing is, Catch, I don't know where the heads of the reporters are going to be today. Are they going to be thinking recruiting, or are they going to be thinking CFP? And if we're being honest, majority of people in that room don't follow recruiting heavily.
Yeah,
I think he'll probably get more CFP, future scheduling, all those kind of questions. And I think he'll want to start off with the good and positive stuff, which is going to be recruiting. But I think the low-hanging fruit in that room will be, hey, what do you think about what's happening, and where do you guys go scheduling, and do you still think you have a chance? I think that's probably that. I'll ask the question though, Catch. I'll ask it. He'll like me today. He'll this will be he won't shut me down today kind of day with me and Sark. Yeah, he'll be like, oh, that's a good question. Because overall he does like my questions. It's only a couple of times a year he doesn't like them.
I think it will also be that 105 question is really interesting, because when you look back on it, it is a game against a school that has 105 scholarship players that they lost by 7 points. That it can't say, well, if they'd taken 20 more scholarship guys, that would change the outcome. But you know what? If they've been able to take 5 more, it might have been an interior offensive lineman. It might have been a running back. It might have been a wide receiver at that point, where it was like, well, because we have the room, let's go get a kid like the kid we get from Oregon State, right? Where he's not even one of our best players, but we're glad we have him. I wonder if the coaches feel 105 versus 85 in competition at all, because the Big Ten was really aggressive. In Michigan and Ohio State were adding guys all the way until the very finish line of, we still have scholarships that we can give out. We don't care. We'll tell our walk-ons they got to go home. Let's get somebody who's better. I just curious how they handle that. We're wrapping things up here, by the way, on the Orange Blitz
Live. Quick, Rocky Cummings signed, a kid out of California, and I see someone in the chat saying linebacker or tight end. He can do both, but he's definitely coming in as a linebacker to Texas.
What do you think happens with Jermaine Bishop?
The last time, and he's busy with playoffs, so I haven't bothered him. The last time he and I communicated, it was via text message, via a text interview. He insinuated he was coming in to play defense. But he's such a good offensive player, Catch. I don't know how you don't try him on offense first, at least certainly on special teams as a return guy. Dynamic weapon on offense. he's pretty slight of frame wherever you put him on the field, right? So not pretty, he's very slight of frame, but
he has an appetite to hit people.
He does for his
size.
He's
155, and oftentimes it just means he bounces off of them.
Yeah, but he's not afraid of contact. You're right, at 155 pounds. But I just think he could be such a dynamic slot type receiver for you. You know, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they could use him more, maybe need him more at receiver, but I think it's kind of unsettled, I guess, is my answer, because he's telling me possibly defense to start off with. But I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Seeing you as an offensive player and what you're doing this year. What did he have last year? Or last week, like 18 catches or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
In a state playoff game. So
like 15, 80 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I like that guy as an offensive player. So.
Guys, we got 15 minutes. We're down to, I guess, Texas knee. We're really waiting on Wesley, Atkinson, and then Corey Wells. There's two categories of guys here. There's just Wesley and Atkinson sending their letters of intent in and them being confirmed. And now we're waiting on Corey Wells and Vodney Cleveland to do whatever it is that they're going to do.
By the way, sorry, Tyler Atkinson posted something on Instagram saying 2:30 p.m. Again, now, does that mean he's going?
Breaking news, Tyler Atkinson is a Longhorn.
Okay, I was about to say, does that mean he's not going to sign early or not? No.
Nope,
okay.
He's in.
Okay.
So now we're down to West Coast, Richard Wesley, and then the two defensive linemen who we know if there's going to be any drama in the commitment class. Those are the two guys we've been waiting since we started on at 8 o'clock. As Jason, I'll update the Atkinson thing to get that in the thread. I guess now we're just waiting on those two defensive tackles, really, right?
Yeah, Vodney was supposed to go at 9:30. So, I mean, sometimes those signing ceremonies can take some time. If they have multiple kids to go through at the school, especially. So, but nothing from Vodney Cleveland just yet. I mean, it's Texas or North Carolina. Again, all signs seem to point to North Carolina. You know, these are little things like, and Vodney hasn't talked to anybody, but sometimes when you're just trying to track these recruits, you got to just try to read little signs, read the tea leaves, read between the lines. So all these guys last night, or several of them, were posting like, hey, signing at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And it's a picture of them in their Longhorn gear from their official visits and things, and pictures with Sark or something. Vodney Cleveland posted signing at 9:30, and it was just him in his high school uniform. So it's almost, he was purposely trying to drum up suspense. And I think there's more confidence in Chapel Hill than there is in Austin. Corey Wells is a little bit different. You know, I mean, Texas, it looked like he was going to flip to Auburn, and then Auburn went through their coaching change. Then he kind of reeled back into Texas. He's got a brother who Auburn has offered a scholarship to. Well, Texas has offered him a preferred walk-on spot, maybe with some NIL money to offset some of the scholarship stuff. Auburn, of course, hires their new coach this week. They keep their defensive coordinator. They keep their defensive line coach. To me, those are signs that it probably looks good for Auburn to maybe flip Corey Wells, but he's gone underground too. I've reached out to him. He's usually pretty responsive, but Corey Wells out of Mississippi has not been responding to me lately. So, or not in the last 36 hours or so anyway. So tough one to read, but I'm kind of leaning towards both of those defensive linemen flipping to other programs.
A little bit of breaking news here from Sam Spiegelman of Rivals, our former compatriot at Rivals.com. Spiegs reporting that Zion Robinson, 4-star wide receiver out of Mansfield, who's been committed to Michigan since June, 6'2.5", $175, not rated by Rivals. He's a 3-star by Rivals, 24/7 at ESPN. Both have him as 4 stars, national top 150 kids. Spiegelman is reporting that Texas is trying to flip Zion Robinson away from Michigan, and that Robinson has told Rivals.com today that he will not be signing his paperwork until further notice on Wednesday. I don't quite know what that means. It's written where that could be indefinitely or that could be later today. I'm not quite sure. But it seems like Texas is the one making a run at Zion Robinson. Interesting.
Must be the money that's turning them off. I mean, it's got to be. That's all that is. It's like, hey, man, We got a little extra cash.
There's I just don't believe that though. And there's no way that guy comes in and plays right away.
I mean,
that's an interesting steal. Yeah, interesting guy to try to steal late in the process. But
I mean, to me, that almost, do they know something about the wide receiver position and who's going to leave where they feel like they would make a run at a guy like that late? That's so late. It does make me think that maybe something has happened at that position on the roster that has made them feel like, you know what, this isn't even going to impact what we do in going after a guy in the portal, but let's go get another young guy. If I had to guess, if that happens, my guess would be that one of those freshman receivers has indicated they're probably on their way out the door. Physically, he profiles very similar to a Khalil Lockett or a Jamie French. He's an outside receiver. Think about what they have coming back next year, where if before they ever even go into the portal, they will return their top 4 wide receivers on paper, although I think there's a real good chance that that's more unsettled than people realize. I think there could be some turnover at the wide receiver position, both in that starting group. I think you got to watch DeAndre Moore. I think you got to watch Ryan Wingo to a certain extent. And maybe this is a different show, but you know, Ryan Wingo got wide receiver 1 money this year. I don't even know what that fully means, other than that's what I heard on WAR. And that for most of the season, there was a sense that like they didn't get that kind of return back on him. Is he a wide receiver 1 next year? And whatever that means from a cost standpoint, if you're Texas and you're going to have one guy who's going to make the most amount of money and he's the guy, is he the guy? Like there's so many interesting questions in this Texas roster as they get ready to go into retaining season. But I think the wide receiver position is one where there's a little bit more uncertainty than maybe people realize.
So Catch, was it? Just help me out for a second. Wasn't it like 2 years ago they got the receiver out of Calabasas who never took a visit and recruit, and they got him late in the process?
Yes.
So it's not uncommon for that. I forget the guy's name, but it's not
because he's on campus and hasn't played ever.
Yeah, we get in. I know every spring we get.
Are you going to say the name? I'm waiting to see if you'll know. If I give you his initials,
it's like AB or something.
It is AB.
It's AB. It's Aaron Bryant.
Butler.
Damn.
No, but I mean
that might make him go into transfer portal. It's like, man, these people don't even remember my name. Like
that is the clearest sign that dude should be in the portal on. When the portal opens, then that happened organically. Like, sorry, kid.
Yeah. I just
you know who Onward remembers? Second-year players who play.
I only remember. It's sad that I remember with the city that he was from, because like Calabasas, that's a really interesting city, and I know we get asked about him every spring because everyone like wants to compare him to Xavier Worthy, and you know the inevitable like. Where's this guy? Where's that guy? It's like, well, you know, if he was playing, we'd probably give you more information. If he's not playing, that's kind of your indication. So, in any case, I just remember them getting a guy late. So that's what made me think of this current situation.
Still nothing on the defensive lineman. I'm hitting refresh to see.
Yeah, same. Zion Robinson posted on Instagram, that he is not signing until further notice. But he's an intriguing guy. I'm just kind of looking. He's 6'3", state high jump winner. He jumped 6'8", won the class 6'8" high jump.
He's a really nice prospect. I just don't look at him as a guy that I think comes in at Texas and plays in the first couple of years. And he's not a guy that's going to. He's Parker Livingston. And so he is. You know, he's a big guy that will be a vertical down the field threat. There's not a lot of nuance to him as a player. He's not a guy that has the passing route tree down to such an extent that you can use him in a lot of ways. He's going to work outside the hash marks. He's going to be a vertical threat in the big-bodied Colin Johnson kind of a way, more so than in the Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy kind of a way. He does fit the mold on WAR of what Sark has told us they are looking for at wide receiver. I frankly think it's stupid and it didn't work this year. But they're doing it still. What I didn't just do is read out a profile of a guy where it's like, I don't even know how good he is, but he's 10-3 in the 100 meters.
Correct. Now, I got nothing to add to that. You're correct.
They like these big physical guys, and my guess is somewhere in there, there's a guy with his somewhat profile that probably won't be back because that is a late move, and this is literally on signing day. Something to keep an eye on as we.
You got to think that they've probably have had some gotten close to some end of the season meetings. I think Sark mentioned something about starting that process last week, but I knew they have to have meetings this week, so I'm sure those things are and look, you always have agents who now all these kids have agents, so you have that as well.
Jason, I'll tell you what, as we kind of wrap things up here on the show, we're wrapping up hour number 2, and I've got a show at noon, and we can just pick things up back then. I don't know that we need to sit around and just wait on Bodney Cleveland and Corey Wells. I do think it's really interesting, though. We're waiting on Wesley. We're waiting on those two guys. Everybody else is in. I think if you told us in the summer that of all the guys they got commitments from, that they're really the only ones that you would sweat out would be Wells and Cleveland, you probably would go, nah, somebody else. Cooper will get interesting, or James Johnson will get interesting, or somebody, right? And in the end, the guys that they really wanted to keep, they've kept. And it never got hairy with any of those out-of-state guys that you wondered, oh, man, is November and December going to get interesting? Will Derek Cooper in Miami be a thing in the last 2 weeks? And they really haven't had to sweat out many of their big dogs. I think if they lose those defensive tackles, they'll just chalk that up to we're just not going to pay a certain price for a certain player, and there are going to be some casualties of war in that respect, and maybe that's where those two guys fall on the line. I still say I'm not convinced they go after both of those guys if they know that James Johnson and Jamarian Carlton are going to be in this class back in May. I think they may take a couple of less defensive tackle commitments, mainly because they're not in as great of a need for defensive tackles this year as they have been the last couple of years. To Anwar's point earlier, Texas could, if they wanted to, go after the offensive line the way they have defensive tackles the last couple of years, because this will be the first year they don't need to sign 5 defensive tackles. They can sign 1 if they think a guy's really, really good. But for the most part, they're returning their top 3. They get January comes back. Watson comes back. We assume that Hero Canoe is going to come back. I suppose you got to keep an eye on that one. But, for the first time onward, it doesn't look desperate at defensive tackle. Like, oh God, what are they going to do? They can do that at a different position if they want to. Defensive tackle is not destitute the way that it was. They're signing a guy in James Johnson who's already signed, and that guy may or may not come in and play right away. There's no immediate need to force that guy onto the field if he's not ready.
Well, yeah, because they already got some young guys in the pipe. They've got guys who are that they got.
Terry.
They already got Justice Terry, right? So you already spent your money. And then what year's Watson? Marat?
Watson will be a junior next year. He's only finishing the sophomore season.
So yeah, you still got some guys on the roster coming back, right? What was that? It's Alex January also.
January will be a third-year guy next year as well.
Yeah, so you feel good about that. At least your interior guys that you've got. You got some numbers there. They'll go in the portal and grab some. So if you're at that point, that's a luxury position. But that's one of those you guys can sit and wait, and you'll wait your turn.
Well, look, defensive tackle, January, Canoe, Watson. Those are your first 3. You've got the 5-star Johnson. You've got Justice Terry. That makes 5. That doesn't even include, they've got a couple of other guys that are on the roster that are bodies at this point. But I think this is a year where they might look at nose tackle and go, is there a Cole Prevard out there that we're going to sign 1 and we want somebody to play 300 snaps at nose tackle, but that guy doesn't have to cost $1 million. That guy, can we get a Bill Norton? You know what I mean? Is there because they don't need a frontline guy. They probably feel like we could use a guy that could just eat some snaps over the center but I think they probably feel like they're pretty good, which, again, do they have the guts to do that at the offensive line and just say, you know what, we're going to sign 5 guards and centers? Because you know who did that this past year? Ohio State. And when Ohio State signed that Rice tackle, remember, that was supposed to be their big signing, is they signed that kid from Rice with the name that I can't remember, but mainly because he didn't play. But they signed an extra tackle who ended up being better than that guy. And it's a little bit like Texas with La'Von Johnson. You know, like they haven't hit on every single defensive tackle that they've signed the last couple of years. They've just signed enough of them that by hook or crook, they're going to have guys. Boy, if they do that on the offensive line, if you tell me right now they're going to sign 4 or 5 offensive linemen in the portal and be like, we don't even know who starts, they'll figure that out on the field. I feel a lot better about this team. Tell me nothing else other than they're going to take rebuilding the offensive line as seriously as they took building the defensive tackle position the last 2 seasons. I feel really good about where the direction of 2026 is going.
Fellas, before we wrap up, Vanderbilt has done it. Jared Curtis has signed with Vanderbilt, number 1 quarterback in the country, number 3 player overall, I believe, according to the Rivals on 3 rankings. It did happen. He signed.
That's a good sign. It's time to wrap the show up.
That's the sign.
And Texas fans, keep hope alive. Jalen Lott has still not signed.
No. That's clickbait.
Never know. You never know.
You do know. We do know.
Oh, we do know. Okay.
We do
but he
know.
still hasn't officially signed. Malachi Lee still hasn't officially signed, but they haven't gotten up in Hawaii yet.
Like, the thing about poor Jalen Lott is that I think all of the receivers had to pay a little bit of a price for what the hell happened with those freshman receivers this year. I just, if it was Chris Henry Jr., I think they were willing to. By the way, do we know what's happened with Chris Henry Jr.?
He was supposed to be signing like any minute, still speculation, maybe Oregon. Hey, maybe that's what Jalen Lott's waiting for, to see what Chris Henry Jr. does. Oregon or sticks with his Ohio State.
But his position coach just took a job somewhere else.
Like literally 30 minutes before he was supposed to sign.
It literally just happened. Chris Henry signs with Ohio State. I just saw a tweet a minute ago. So just great minds think alike. And on that note, there's literally nothing else to pay attention to.
By the way, Ken, that 2027 kid, that kid committed to Vanderbilt, just remember, Texas is at Vanderbilt in 2027. So that they'll be playing a future 5-star down the line. It will impact Texas at some point. Just
interesting. Playing Vanderbilt when they've got a 5-star quarterback. What a world we live in. By the way, as many 5-stars as Texas A&M this year. Like, that's with the Texas A&M who's been in the top 5 for most of the year. It's just a different time and place in recruiting.
Well, listen, they're paying Pavia over $2 million or something like that. So they're probably, I'm sure Curtis is getting a pretty penny to go play.
That did not happen because he wanted to go to live in Nashville.
Nashville's awesome, but going to Georgia versus Vanderbilt, that is a money taught, and they scraped together their GoFundMe. And they got a new stadium that's out there. So yeah, and the other thing too, Catch, is he just got an extension, their coach, Clark Lee. Yep. So that had to come with some NIL extras, like, hey, if I go to you gave me extension, you gotta give me some more money. Sounds like he spent it pretty fast.
Well, of that revenue share money, I'm guessing they're taking about $13.5 million of that money and giving it to football. Like, who knows how much on top of that they'll have. But they'll have their revenue share money. And if you're a program like Vanderbilt, the one thing you could probably absolutely justify? Yeah. 5-star quarterback for whatever amount of money that it costs. You give yourself a real chance. Like, Pavia is the best.
You better hope he plays like a 5-star quarterback.
No, you do. But, that's the best chance. That in the SEC, you know what? If you're Vanderbilt, that's a financial risk that's going to be worth. If you miss, you're still Vanderbilt. Right?
Yes.
But if you hit, you might be able to pull another 10-2 rabbit out of your hat I don't know. I like the approach. I don't think Vanderbilt can do what Texas does, and Texas can't do what Vanderbilt does. But in this case, Vanderbilt changed who they are as a program because they got a little bit of money to spend. Funny how that happens. A little bit of money, and suddenly Texas Tech is getting kids from Georgia who are 5 stars, and it's like money does matter, right? We convinced ourselves that it didn't, but in the end, it does. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. Hit that thumbs up button. Thanks to Texas Card House. Thanks to Specs. Thanks to all the guys on set who are on their call, so they help us do this. We'll be back at noon. But yeah, we've gone 2 hours. We're killing time now. These guys want to go get some breakfast and maybe take a bathroom break. For myself, for Onward, for Jason, for Chad, for Longhorn Wealth Management. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll update you in a couple of hours on Bodney, Cleveland, or go to Orange Bloods. QR code. Scan it if you're not already